I am very pleasantly surprised, and I really appreciate the fact that. So I wanted to do like in another podcast, it's called a preamble ramble, but just like something at the beginning that's unrelated to Fab, where we just bullshit for like 5 minutes, and we decided like not to try it out this episode. But the fact that Jason, I really appreciate, because Jason also brought up that we need to be like a little more heated. So I feel like I gave a little more heated, and then Jason gave. And Jason gave a little bit of like an unrelated Fab thing. And it's like neither of them was probably exactly what each of us were thinking, but it's the fact that we care, It's the fact that we wanted to give the other person a little piece of like what they wanted. And it's because we love each other. And that's what it all comes back to.
Team won a championship today for lacrosse.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was going to be about. I thought that's what you're going to say.
Yeah,
it's fucking awesome.
I thought that's where you were going.
So last week's episode, we talked about rotation. Good, bad, did not give our opinions. I was
going to say, didn't talk about it, proposed the idea.
Opinion on this. The comments we got, I mean, we fell short of 50, so shame on everybody. I mean, 305 of you have watched it since then, and only 19 of you could type in a couple letters. I mean, come on. Get off your ass, type in your phone if it's good or bad. So I felt for the most part, the comments were anti-rotation, correct?
Yeah, that is the overwhelming consensus of the 19 people.
So I will say my take on rotation, and this is honest truth, if this game went into rotation, I would be selling out. And I would leave the game at that point and be done playing this game. And that's not me being extreme. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that I'm old and it's already hard enough. And the reason I love this game is because we only have 3 sets a year. And I think we've discussed this many times that you get burnt out. DBS. Here's a set. Here's another set. There's another set coming in a month, but we're going to give you a supplemental set in between that set with an anniversary box that has 2 cards that you need, but you need to buy that within that set.
Mm-hmm.
At least that you could keep all the cards, but that's why I don't play Magic, to be honest. I don't play Magic because, and the same thing with Force of Will. Force of Will regressed. Force of Will did have set rotation, so they had 2 clusters. They got rid of that. They went to everything again, and people love it. I don't know what your guys' opinions are on it.
I mean, I'll be honest, the concept of rotation doesn't bother me. Like, I think that it would be fine in Flesh and Blood because of the slow release site. Like 3 sets a year with a rotation, that's fine with me. The only issue is that I don't think it works. It doesn't work with Flesh and Blood, with how they're currently releasing heroes and the cards that they're releasing. And honestly, I would just hate to see like older heroes rotate out as not playable. So the one thing that I could see really shifting my view of it would be if they created a secondary format and you can let like the hyper competitive people play with like it would be like standard versus modern versus like, you could have a Commander-esque format and stuff, which you would kind of have with UPF, but like, I just mean like
over 300 card sets.
If they had a secondary format that was everything still, then they could maybe get away with not losing too many people when they did this theoretical shift that they would need to do in how they build and design sets. But that would just still kind of suck because you're not going to get tons of old hero support unless it's a new hero being printed. So that is really where, when we first started talking about the sets coming out and how many characters are being made, and when I was talking about like attribute mixing and how they would need to blend that, you're fine with it now because you have a lot to play with each hero. But if they were to do this, that would make them have to have a solution to the fact that it was going to be months, if not years, before your hero got a competitive, viable upgrade, which I think sucks. If you're like, oh, I love Ranger. It's like, okay, cool. Well, In a year and a half, you're going to get some new Ranger cards because they release to accommodate their standard competitive
You
rotating
could still
format.
play Ranger versus rotation, where we're not doing
Right.
Ranger until 2027. So in
Yes,
5 years,
you could still be
we'll
playing
have-
Ranger in this secondary format,
Yeah.
right? In their like
Right.
legacy format that has everything, but you're not getting new Ranger shit because when they release sets now, they can't release sets that have support for previous stuff because everything needs to be focused on the standard competitive format.
I think the big issue is like fundamentally the problem is like the second you start talking rotation, it's a complete immediately James White has to go, okay, we're releasing Fab 3.0 because you have to fundamentally change the way they make sets. Right now, the way that they make a set is their intention is to only reprint cards in these history packs.
Yep.
And to tell people, hey, you spent a fortune on CNC and E-Strike and Art of War, but now they're going to rotate out and there's not a legal version of that card. You either have to reprint it or people have to accept the fact that they are forced into a format, an alternate format, in order to use all of their cards again. And that feels kind of bad. I think one of the things that makes Fab unique personally, though, is the fact that the formats are so different.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of games where there is a significant amount of overlap, where it's just this chunk of it is legal, all of it is legal, only old stuff is legal.
This format uses the ban list. This format has its own ban list. I get it.
Fab right now says all of the formats are so fundamentally different. You have Commoner, you have Blitz, you have Constructed, you'll have PvE and UPF, and all of those formats function in a completely different manner. And that's what makes rotation not necessary, is the amount of different formats that people are able to play in. Is you don't need to create another like fake format. You don't have to artificially create a format.
So this was a thought that I had when we were talking about this kind of in between last week and this week. Jason, tell me your thoughts. What if they did like almost like a Heroes of the Storm, League of Legends, like seasons, where it was these 8 classes are in the competitive scene for this season. Like these are the classes being supported in the new sets this year. These are the 8 classes, or these are the 6 classes, or whatever it is that you can run in our competitive. So they're not rotating out; they're just activating and deactivating heroes as things get released. And like that was one where I thought that they could probably get away with if stuff starts to get crazy.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's necessary.
I don't think so either. But just as an
format,
option,
because your hero might not get great support for the 2 sets, but then it's going to get supplemental set, and if it gets nothing, you can still play it, and maybe it's not good. I mean, Dash, people bitch about Dash and support and stuff, but Dash still keeps creeping in, and that set has never got a crazy good. The best card it's got in the past 2 years is Teklo Pounder, right? It's got 1 card that made it viable to play again.
What if they had an announcement that said in 2023 we're implementing seasons? The heroes that are legal for the 2023 season are Dash, OG Bravo, Kano, and like they can just pick 6, and they can specify like these are the 6 heroes that are legal for 2023. I would be more on board with that than true rotation, because that would be fun to be like Dash is in this meta, and whoever's not like who's really strong in a Dash.
You know what I mean? You're forcing a meta. Then you're basically being a game
artificially creating.
We're forcing a meta. So
if we're being totally honest, that's what game creators do all of the time. They're always doing that.
Here's maybe the more
look at fucking Starvo. Starvo is not forcing a meta. Starvo is not considered forcing a meta. Bullshit.
Well, okay, but what meta are they forcing right now with the newest set?
Oh, nothing. But
correct.
You can't tell me that they've never forced a meta before.
They made a mistake in testing of Starvo with Seeds, Chains, and Cheerios Briar. So that wasn't a forced meta. That was a mistake oversight in
Design screw up,
realization
yeah.
that they did that, and they admitted to it.
All right, you know,
So
what,
I
let's
don't
let's
think
talk
that was a
about
forced-
let's talk about what we mean by no, I'm just kidding. I don't really care that much.
So-
but
maybe more important, I think, about the seasons thing is the
Mhm.
fact that it is another way, just like any sort of rotation, that undermines their fundamental like version of rotation, which is Living Legend.
to be
because I
perfectly
think-
clear, I don't
no, I-
want rotation to be implemented
Right.
at all because
no,
one,
I-
it's just a
I
bigger pain in the
understand.
ass. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, as an alternate to that, if they're gonna say we're implementing rotation, be like, fucking don't do that. If you have to do something, just do seasons or something. That's what I'm saying.
I still think something like that just undermines what they're trying to do with Living Legend, which is to allow
Yeah.
heroes to earn status as living legends. And it's the
Mhm.
second you do anything that alters a hero's ability to climb to Living Legend, other than banning for the health of the game, banning
Mhm.
cards, restricting cards, doing that kind of thing is one thing, but artificially impacting the meta by making certain heroes legal or not, or rotating certain cards to try and alter power levels, I think you undermine some of the things that you have in the game. You mess with Living Legend. Well, what's the point of having that if we have
Right.
any form
It
of
does
rotation?
totally
It-
eliminates what Living Legend
it's
stands for.
invalidated and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
over.
It
Yep.
invalidates something that they put in as a functional
Mhm.
game, like mechanic of the structure of their game.
But if they're just gonna print, I mean, effectively they just printed Starvo to Living Legend, right? It's like they might as well put Living Legend
I mean,
on the bottom of
it's-
his card. Like,
It's over. Like Starvo's so done. It's like I don't even care anymore. Yeah, it sucked,
Yeah.
but he's over.
but
He's done.
what I'm saying is
The
that it's
game
like,
fixed itself.
what is Living Legend right now, anyways? If they're just gonna like print to Living Legend, but
But-
that's whatever.
Let's. But here's the thing, right?
Only one. It's happened with one
it's-
hero.
It's one of two. You have two perfect representations of how
Mhm.
Living Legend works. Chain lived from Monarch until
Mhm.
time Starvo did, and it was just through they had to adjust him slightly with the seeds ban and stuff. But realistically, he's the perfect example of what a Living Legend hero should be
Mhm.
and what we should look at in heroes. Just say a deck like Prism. She's fundamentally always been strong in every meta.
Mhm.
Regardless, everybody always says this meta is bad for her. She can't win in this. She can't do in that. But
And
she
she does
tops
fine,
everything.
yeah.
She wins tons of RTNs. She's just not the best hero in the game every time. She's not an S tier hero, which isn't what anybody wants for any hero in any game.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Seeing some
except for
AT heroes Living Legend is great.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, I think Prism is going to be the first Living Legend that earned it in the way that LSS viewed Living Legend being earned. Because even Chain
Right.
earned a fuck ton of Living Legend points, like before
Yeah.
his adjustment, right?
With
Before
seeds,
like
yeah.
he fell off. So I think that Prism is like they're like she is how Living Legend is supposed to work. She Spectra, like we went a little hard in the paint, guys. We apologize, but it wasn't terribly broken. She did her thing. She's rotating out. We'll come out with another light hero that whatever, like has something.
Mhm.
So yeah,
So
I'm
here's I didn't like it because my reply. So when Brendan posted it, he put 1-2 supplement rotate out, and my response was, the game is great, the meta is diverse, and his response was pie diversity is not directly correlated with interesting or better gameplay, which I fundamentally disagree with that.
I mean, I
The-
don't necessarily disagree with that.
Okay, so you can't. Interesting and better are two different, very distinct words.
We got to
Like,
look
better-
at the difference between how our brains work, though, as like casual, competitively
No,
casual,
No,
casually competitive.
I'm going to take the word interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. What does interesting mean? Interesting means pretty much diverse and different.
No,
If it's
okay.
interesting.
I would disagree with what that is. Then I disagree with
So-
what interesting.
So
means.
you think it's more interesting to have a deck and to play one or two heroes for a whole pro quest? Is that
If
interesting?
It depends
No,
on what
no,
you think.
so what's
What your definition of interesting
that's
is?
what I'm
Because my
asking. I'm
definition of
asking you.
interesting is not being like shocked at new things. Like that's not. I mean, okay, for me personally, that is what is interesting. But I also definitely acknowledge that people that liked the Blitz Iramir and thought that that was interesting because there is a group of people that think that was interesting. We don't. I get that.
No.
And the Starvo mirrors, that is interesting to a lot of people, highly competitive people, because there are tons of intricacies in what gets played when and the sequencing, and that is interesting. Is it interesting because it's a bunch of flashy different shit happening all at once with a wide variety of heroes? No, that is not what they find interesting.
Okay. Let's look the definition of interesting. Interesting is arousing curiosity of interest, holding or catching attention. So it's your 7th Bravo mirror of the day, and you're like, oh. Okay.
But if you're fucking
you got my attention now. This is interesting. You caught my attention on the 7th Bravo. Hold on. I got a sideboard for the 7th Bravo mirror. Give me a second.
Are you ready?
That's not fucking interesting. That's bullshit.
You do not think that that's interesting.
No, I can give you concrete evidence at the next Pro Tour live stream that people are ready for a change. I guarantee more people are going to be interested and watching this Pro Tour than the last one. 1,000% on day one, because on day one, the viewership declined. People expressed a disinterest in the meta and even watching those games.
Yep.
Because after the first couple of tables, it was just Starvomir.
Oh, super boring.
They were
artificially very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't think it was interesting at all.
But here's the thing. Let's just talk about an easy argument, right?
Yeah.
Is something interesting if the masses, I understand you and 2 people or 4 people say, well, the Starvomir is super interesting. Right.
I don't say that.
But
I don't like
large,
that. I don't think it's interesting.
You're pigeonholed right now, so just go with it.
But
you're getting pigeonholed into it.
At large.
I love this because I know I'm right. But go ahead.
I don't know how you're right about
my point is that I don't think I said this at the beginning of everything I said, and you guys saw red around the borders of your vision and all that shit. I said I don't find the Starvomir, the Iramir, I don't find that interesting. People can look at that and think that the minutia, the detailed play of those mirrors is interesting. Guess who one of those people probably is? The guy you argued with, Jason. The guy that we are literally talking about his statement.
I'm telling you, you can't tell me if you're sitting across from the same hero for the 7th time that is 1 card off every other hero, that you sit down and he is lying to himself if he sits down and goes, okay, well, this is interesting. You got Bravo over there. Okay.
There are things that I imagine. Do I need to caveat everything with I imagine?
No.
I imagine as I'm watching that. Go ahead, Blake.
But listen,
I love this, actually.
I'm making a very clear point.
Yeah.
Holding or catching attention is the definition of interesting.
Yes.
People were
You can keep defining it. That's fine.
People's attention was not being held or caught during the Starvomir Pro Tour and RTN and ProQuest season. It wasn't being held and caught.
Even
the majority of the people, yes, and we all 3 of us relate to those people. Yes.
So once again,
that's the thing. If 90% of the populace in the game says that that's a bad thing, why would we fundamentally look at the game as a whole and say, okay, we're going to structure rotation because it's not interesting to watch diversity.
I just want to say I don't think that we should have rotation. I say again.
Devil's advocate. So now you get the devils in dual horn form coming at you.
I was literally just proposing the counter argument of why Brendan probably thought that was interesting.
No, you are not backing up. You hold it. You hold your shit right now, Dane, and you keep coming strong. No backing up. You keep coming with it.
Okay, but I'm genuinely concerned Blake's gonna have an aneurysm if I keep pushing back on this because he's like, interesting, the definition. It's not a thing.
I'm making a very clear argument, and I'm okay being right.
Yeah, me too. I'm okay being right too.
And being wrong.
No, I am right. I am right because my argument is that people do find. Now, I'm not saying any percentage of people. I'm not claiming any amount or the hereto or hitherfore. I am just saying that there are people that find those minutia interesting, and Brendan is probably one of them, and that's why he said what he said, and it's why I disagree with him. But I am proposing the fact that people find that interesting.
Right. So
because Jason said we don't have enough conflict in the podcast.
You have decided to divert the argument and politicize it and basically take a politician's approach and say, I'm not making I will no longer argue the point, which is
Wrong.
Interesting diversity
Wrong.
equals rotation, bad or good. You're just going, I am going to define interesting and say that Brendan's argument is around the word interesting, and it is true. He finds it interesting.
This right now is interesting. This right now is interesting because what you just said is not my argument. So
no, you're making the argument that it is
that's interesting.
This is
interesting.
This is
because
this is me and Blake's Starvo 2.0 argument having over a different word right now.
Yeah,
this is great.
I just
not what I mean.
I just like the fact that Dane is arguing about Brendan's definition of the word interesting.
No, that's not. It's literally not. That is literally not.
Is about rotation. We're saying that the meta is better and healthier.
Yes. Brendan's argument is about rotation.
Rotation is bad.
At no point did I put my argument into Brendan's mouth. Let me just clarify this because Blake's really struggling here. Blake's having a hard time. I am proposing that our definition of
a bit of a hard time, but
okay. So what
I'm
I've said,
I'm just telling you the dictionary definition of interesting.
Yes.
I don't care what your definition is.
I don't care what your
definition is. It's not my
your
definition.
Name is not Merriam or Webster's.
That's not my definition. I'm saying that by your definition, it is possible that there are people that look at the Bravo matchup and view interesting
with that.
View interesting is the way that Jason described it. This definition that he pulled from Miriam, they look at the Bravo or the Starvo, and they probably say this is interesting. That was literally my whole argument.
And I'm saying the first match, yes, somebody might find match number 1 in a 9 Swiss match competition interesting. That same person is
round 8
full of shit that by round 7 or 8, if they say that matchup is still interesting, they are so full of shit that we can smell it from here.
Round 8, ready? You've been watching people play the same sequence and play lines the whole time. Round 8, you notice a guy doesn't play. He doesn't play out his whatever, right? He holds it. And you're like, that's weird. People don't usually hold that. And he arsenals it. And he sits on it for 3 turns. Then he plays it and boom, big whammy, wins game with it because he held it and didn't play it when it was less efficient. Whatever the case may be, that's interesting. That changes. That is where a lot not a lot of people, but that is where some people find like that doesn't happen if you have 17 different matchups. I am just trying to raise the point of people might have different views of what's interesting than Blake and Jason.
100%.
And
I'm
me,
agreeing.
because I agree.
90% of the rest of the population. Blake, Jason. So 90% plus Blake and Jason.
We are all three on the winning team. Yes, I acknowledge that.
But the point is, it's all literally going back to the whole concept of rotation, which is that rotation would be good because it would create more Starvo-like metas where less heroes would be relevant and you would watch the same match over and over. And that is absolutely asinine and idiotic to say because
unless you think the mirror is interesting.
Fun.
But yes.
But the problem is the only people who want that, and I will contend this, the only people who want rotation, to Cole Love's point, because I think Cole is 100% correct, rotation does not make a game better. It makes the formats easier to solve. People want an easier to solve format because they are not as good at the game. I'm sorry.
They can practice it 100. No, they just can over practice.
They can over practice it. They don't ever have. But that's the thing, though.
I think you get more into
practice lines.
See, okay, I so now I'm not playing devil's advocate. I'm genuinely just raising. I'm curious now, guys. Like, do you think that poker is less interesting because it's the same deck every time?
Well, no, because there's so many. It's a completely different game. That's not even like you can't. Right, that's apples and oranges.
But like there's the same math. It's been the same math. It's been the same.
Right. But
the same play.
Against,
like
you're not playing against another player who plays different lines.
Ask people who play poker for fun. How many people who play poker play it because genuinely are fun? It's like very enjoyable to them. And how many do it because they're trying to make a living or make money because they think they're better at somebody else. Poker's an ego game, more so.
Yes, I think that there is.
That's a really big.
There are people with a type of brain. I'm not a scientist nor that smart, so I'm not going to try and define it. But there are people with the type of brain that like there are people that have the type of brain that like that more than they like the crazy diverse fun thing that makes a game fun in my eyes. Like the diversity makes a game more fun. Yes, I am on your guys' side, and I don't apologize that I apparently came off that I wasn't, but because I thought that was great and you guys got real heated. But I will say that there are definitely people out there that probably love the idea of like a 4-hero meta that is like really easy to solve, because then it comes down to like really the minutia of deck builds and like the minutia of plays.
I would argue that all that does is it comes down to who can practice more, because
that's fair too.
If you look at Flesh and Blood, look at the skill level of Flesh and Blood, and I think that's why it's not a good argument to say, well, rotation makes less heroes, makes more practice, makes me better, because despite the meta in Flesh and Blood up to this point, we have seen a lot of players have tremendous success through massively different metas, whether that has been Chain or Briar or Starvo or the current meta. There are a lot of players who have either played different decks or piloted different heroes or played in draft formats and sealed formats, and they have been successful in all of those formats. To me, that says the beauty of Flesh and Blood is that it's so reliant on you to play the game well and to play the game clean. You
As a
might
whole,
not win
the overall game. You need to understand the overall game more than just a deck. Yeah. I'm 100% with you on that.
To me, what makes Flesh and Blood great is that at times you have to remember card games have to be evaluated less as like sports teams in football or basketball, where great teams will win championships, 6 of 8 years or 3 in 4 years they'll win championships. That kind of success is so hard to attain in a card game, because card games are much more of the tennis or golf model, where it's one person versus a field of people.
Yeah.
And getting to the mountaintop over and over is hard. So evaluating someone's success comes down more to how often do they top. And if you look at great players, they top everything. They are always top 16 or always top 32, always making top cuts, always making day twos. And to me, that's why Flesh and Blood is great, is because it's very uncommon that you bring a very good deck with lots of practice and get punished for it. There are opportunities to do that. You can run into bad meta matchups, but for the most part,
unlucky in Swiss.
Yeah, I get that happens, and I don't knock anybody for having a bad weekend or not doing well at certain events. But if you look at good players, they are regularly successful, and that's the beauty of Flesh and Blood, is the skill level of the game. It demands you to pilot well and to know all the formats and to come prepared with a deck. But it also rewards people who are just religious pilots of very good decks. If you just play a good deck, you don't even have to play the best deck. You can outplay a lot of people. You might not win the event, but there's a very good chance you day two if you just come with the deck that you're most prepared with and just run through Swiss and
know how to play
people.
into different decks.
Like
100%.
Just crush the field. And it's like, I think that's why, to me, again, rotation just doesn't make sense, because
I think rotation is completely unnecessary. It's like, if this isn't to kind of bring it back to points I was making earlier, is like, this game is not poker. It's not like, this is a completely different monster that a lot of the things that I think help it thrive as a casual game too is the fact that it has so much diversity and having a rotation, even just the having of like a standard format and then other formats that like, even if I'm not competing, even if I'm not going to nationals, even if I'm not going to the Pro Tour, I still don't like knowing that the format I'm playing isn't not viable format, but it's not a real form. It's like, it's not
the competitive format.
Exactly. And I'm sure that there's lots of casual players. Actually, I know that there are a lot of casual players that don't like that. They don't like knowing. It's like the same concept as a dead game. I know there's lots of people. There's a reason that when a game dies, people don't just keep playing it. It's like, if this isn't supported, this isn't the real thing, why would I keep playing this? It's like, if what I'm playing is not legal, it's not a legal thing, the company's not worried about what I'm playing right now, why would I keep playing it? And I know that exists as a sentiment. So I don't think that rotation would be healthy for the game. I don't. And there's nothing
Yeah.
broken in it right now that makes me think, well, they need to solve it some other way then. Why? Like, I don't agree with that argument. Brendan's argument and what I was saying, just to like put a bow on that, was I could see how someone who has like that minutia brain sees that as, let's condense it, let's make it 4 heroes, let's make it just like really like grindy competitive and almost like a World Series thing, and we'll just like play within that. It's like, okay, I can see why someone would want that. I don't think I don't think that that's more than 5% of people, if that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I just think it's the most interesting that this meta has ever been since the game came out. That you don't know what you're gonna play, and that every matchup at like our RTN or whatever they're called. I can't keep all these names straight. Whatever we did at the source a while back.
Does it feel disorganized? Does it feel
I played a different
haphazard?
I played a different hero every match. To me, that was super interesting.
Yeah. I think the meta right now is just really dynamic in that it feels very, it's fun to go see events. It's hard to guess things. I thought looking at the Pro Tour, it's so interesting because when we looked at Pro Tour 1 and we talked about like the Pro Tour meta, the big thing was, okay, can you dethrone Starvo? Because that was the big question going into that. Going into Pro Tour 2, I think what makes this interesting is we don't go, okay, who's going to dethrone
X? It's just,
who is it?
What
Who
is
are we
it?
dethroning?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
we
tell
can't
you
even
right now,
sort it out.
I got 60% of the Lily meta 100% solved. I'm going to tell you this right now.
60%, 100% solved. That's like saying it 20% of the time it works every time.
Well, 60% of the time
Works
right
It's
all the time.
100% solved. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the deal. You're going to have your Fee Fi Fo Fum is going to show up, right? And you're going to have probably 20% of the field on Fi. The other 20% is going to be on Guardian because Guardian beats Fi. I experienced this last weekend. You have a very good matchup with Bravo. I played Bravo, but even Oldham, but you have a very good matchup of Bravo and Defy. So then you have another 20% who are like, well, if all those Bravos are coming and all those Oldhams are going to come, I'm going to bring Prism because Prism. So there's your paper, rock, scissors of those 3 decks. And then 40% is just going to be shit decks.
Some people
Not
call
shit,
it rock,
like
paper, scissors. Yeah.
crazy paper, rock, scissors. It's not rock, paper, scissors, whatever the fuck you said. Paper, rock, scissors. Have this argument with Mason all the time. Not backing down from it, okay? So you can try to change me.
Scissors, rock, scissors, paper, rock. Scissors, paper, rock, baby.
I don't even know what you just said then. I don't even know what it was. I don't even know those words.
Well, apparently, according to Jason, we're just making up orders. So that's fine.
The correct order.
So I think one of the issues
I feel like Blake's tired. I feel he's like, I'm done with this. Like,
I'm really not tired. I'm actually
good.
not tired at all.
Good. I just saw you rubbing your brow, and I was like,
itching,
oh god,
I was itching my eye. No,
heavy thought incoming.
What's that?
Heavy thought is incoming.
I was touching my brow because I was really trying to make sure everything comes out correctly. I would argue that one of the dangers of bringing Prism is that a lot of people were off of Viserai because he didn't have a positive matchup in Defy with Stubby Hammers. But I think now that we have the Stubbies ban,
I was just going to say, I think Viserai
actually has an opportunity to beat that matchup and get a positive matchup of that. He actually has a decent matchup into Guardian because of his mixed damage.
Yeah, into the field overall.
Yeah, he's solid in the field, and he has a good matchup into Illusionist because he packs enough 7s. He has reasonable single turn damage where he goes, well, here's a runic for 7 that is at your face, and if you don't defend it, is also going to take one of your 0-cost auras. I don't even have to attack your 0-cost aura. I can make you defend this turn and lose it. Or he has interesting ways to interact with Prism, actually. And his Fi matchup got better. And he actually has a game plan. I know Tarek was talking about on Twitter, somebody asked him, well, how do you beat Oldhim? And he said, well, that one's not a great one, but if you can just set up slow build rune chants with like read the runes and things, and then get to a turn where you go Mauvrion Skies, Ninth Blade, and you have a really wide turn where you throw 10 to 12 rune chants, a Ninth Blade with go again into something, into Rosetta. You're just trying to do that 2 or 3 times a game, and you can actually have a 50-50 or close to it there, and you can set up wins. And I think that's the interesting thing is immediately we kind of define, okay, well, here's our aggro mid-range control-ish style triangle, right? What we would a standard triangle, and immediately Viz is like standing around the corner doing that meme, that gif where he's like
where he was,
peeking out
where
behind
he
the
was.
tree, just waiting for somebody to make a bad decision and not have a game plan. Because that's the thing, the Guardian matchup is good when you try to play I play 2 null rune, I play a little more control-y, but Bravo's playing a little more aggressive disruption, and that doesn't always go well into a hero that requires you to block with a bunch of cards because of mixed damage. Like he can actually mess with Bravo a little more if Bravo's trying to be aggressive versus control-y.
So when you fog down, be like, fuck your Mauvrion Skies, bitch.
You gotta have it. You gotta go get it. I mean, you got imposing, but then you got to sideboard it. Now it's a sideboard that you played for that one matchup.
I'll be curious if that turns into
specifically into a matchup that has not shown itself yet.
Its need to be countered.
Yeah, it's like, do I run this without knowledge? Like if we're going into this having seen another Nationals or another Pro Tour or something prior to this that had Viz at 15+% of the field, easy sideboard, right?
Right.
We don't have that. Are you going to bank on the fact that Viz is going to make a big showing? Who knows? Like, do we really, like, does anyone really know what's going to be brought? Like, you can make good guesses, but it's really hard to guess. I feel like it's probably safe to assume Viz is going to make a good amount of the field because there's been tons of hype around him, right? Like, especially with his, like, I think that people are aware that he's got good play into the majority of decks. Right. So I would assume it's going to be a decent percentage. And there's lots of people that just love Viserai too. So
I think one of the things that's going to interest me most about this meta and what it looks like, I'm very curious to see what the representation is for some of the more fringe decks or the decks that we haven't seen played a ton.
The only deck that I care about its percentage going into this is Azalea. I want to know what Azalea's percentage is going to be at. That's all I care about. That's all I want to know. That's all I want to see.
I would guess
Azalea
that in the Pro Tour it's probably 0. I wouldn't be surprised to see some in the calling.
That's what. Yeah,
play the calling.
Yeah.
So
it'd be interesting.
I think that I'm very curious. There are going to be truthers on certain decks because even in the Pro Tour, there are people who just feel more comfortable playing the deck they feel comfortable on. So I would like to know what the meta. I look forward to seeing what the meta is in terms of the diversity of those fringe heroes and if people have figured something out. Because that's my big hope is we have another kind of Kano situation where somebody kind of just shows up with a deck that they've been secretly working on that they have tried to keep quiet so that nobody comes fully prepared for it. And then, hello, it's time for Icelander.
Yeah, what deck totally shits on Azalea? Because Azalea actually has a not horrible matchup in Defy.
Yeah, but she sees a red in the ledger early, and she can like cycle them with Memorial Ground. She's
basically like, yeah, okay, have fun, fine. Like this is gonna be great.
Attack me once.
Yeah, shame on you. Attack me twice. That will not do. But yeah, like what deck totally shits on Azalea? Every other deck.
Guardians. Typically.
Yeah.
When you put a defense reaction in your deck, it gets a whole lot easier. Dominate gets less scary with equipment and the defense reaction, it turns out.
The fridge, yeah. All right. Anyways, what do we got
That's
next?
when they got to bring in the other bow. No D-reacts for you.
Yeah. That only really works against
Oldhim.
Yeah. Bravo just goes, I don't need defense reactions. I have pummels.
Well, yeah, they're just going to go to your face and it's over.
Bravo just goes,
Ranger needs. Glad you brought up that subject. I would like to see some sort of shiv in their boot, like a piece of equipment with a shiv that at least you could pay one to do 1 damage. Just that.
I don't think that
People
helps.
are like, that doesn't do anything. Yeah, just that one little damage. I've played Azalea enough where you've got really close and you've had hands where you can't do anything. And if you could just 1 damage.
How about this? How
take it.
How about you
Without
could
the shiv?
You could pitch to it, and it deals a damage for every resource pitch to it. At least then, if you don't have an arrow, it's too powerful. You think?
Yeah, I think you can fix hands on that. There's just too much you can do with that. That's too strong.
I would still argue.
I'm trying to think, is like,
I would argue that what she specifically needs, to me, it needs to be Azalea specific, not Lexi. Lexi should not have access to it.
Right.
Lexi's pretty strong.
Azalea needs some sort of quiver, just something to stash an arrow. She's hurt far more by lackluster arrow turns than Lexi is.
Like the fact that Lexi has that bow. Yes, you draw an extra card, but only being able to activate it once. You can't use Horizon effectively to get the 6th card. And maybe people are out there figuring out a build. Probably nobody is because people are
just not worth it.
I mean, New Horizon's not good. What if it was a different headpiece that just let you stash?
I think you need to. I would put it on.
It'd be a
like
chest
piece.
Yeah. You make it a quiver that, like, when you pitch a card or when you do something, you can put. There's got to be some way to interact with it that you put an arrow.
Go search an arrow.
In it. Yeah, I mean, just something where you can put.
Dude, could you imagine a tutor on a piece of equipment? That would be so good. Pouncing links.
I mean, you could. It's not broken until she starts winning. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just to do some damage. So
eventually, Azalea's got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the question is how much support do they have to print, or where's the format? Because maybe she just. Because so far in any format I've seen someone try. I saw someone try to play her in Commoner a couple weeks ago to no effect because you just can't do enough. You can't do more than anybody else can. It's a very fair game.
You're making me pay 1 more for my first attack. Oh no!
It's very telling of Azalea that in a Commoner format where decks are pretty power neutral, she's still not great. She still doesn't do anything strong enough to be relevant. I don't know.
I just want to force it. I genuinely want, like, the person that wins the first, like, gets her the first living legend points to be like, I only played Azalea because of this massive bounty. And I want to be like, that number on the website, that was us.
I would love that. I think that would actually be genuinely.
That'd be cool.
Hilarious.
Left
to
our
find
mark.
out that we could retire happily.
Yeah. What do we got next?
Just formats in general. So we're in the blitz format, and with the RTN season. In this last weekend, I went to an RTN. I went 3-3.
You went to
Skirmish. See, once again, I'm old and can't remember this shit. I went to a skirmish. I went 3-3. I brought Cheyenne. I beat a Rhinar with a pummel. And then one of the top 8, and I think the final table, I lost. We were on 1 life, both of us, for 2-3 turns against Dash. Like I was 1 short on a big pummel from killing Dash. So it was so close. So I actually pulled a bunch of cards, which was fun because we don't spend time testing blitz decks personally. I test my blitz decks at the actual skirmishes.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to see a bunch of different decks. And so I found a bunch of cards I didn't like that I thought I would like because of their block value or whatever else, like Forts of Natures. And there was things that I liked and disliked. But the biggest piece that I was missing was Go Again. And E-Strike was not the Go Again I wanted. Mm-hmm. But Zealous Belting
that makes sense. Big attacks. Yeah.
Actually, blue Zealous Belting has got a lot of 4 attacks with pursuits and stuff. I really like doing that because it's hard to block that, and if they don't block it, you pummel, get a card out of their hand, and then come with another attack. So the fact that you can pummel Zealous Beltings to me makes it even stronger because people are going to take usually a vanilla 4 or 5. Like, I'm going to wait till whatever you're
Zealous
setting up
Belting
for.
is just like historically a really good pummel target because they know that another attack is coming. They're like, oh, you've got the go again. Okay, cool. I'm going to take this 4 damage.
Cheyenne,
Oh, no, it's
you
going to be
don't
8.
know what
you
my
discard.
next attack is. You don't know if you're going to get a Rhinar attack and it's going to be an elf for Rampage because I have a Tekel Core up and a floating tunic and can discard, and then I'm going to intimidate you and you don't get the choice of block.
Yeah.
You don't know if you're going to get crippling crushed next.
Good ad.
There's
I like
so
that
many options for it. It was a very fun deck to play. Most people enjoyed it. I found out the Voldemir is amazing because I become Volda and I have crippling crushes. So I literally wanted a dominated crippling crush because all of the tokens were made on their turn.
It was free. Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome.
We were having fun. I mean, it was one of the most fun games. He was sifting. I was making stuff. And I had endless winters that I was able to fuse. Thank you to the Frost Hex. So being able to fuse endless winters makes that deck a lot better because it's easy to get through your deck so fast. So I can get an endless winter, I can arsenal it, and boom, there's a Frost Hex. I'm going to swing this out to you. And if I have a Tekel Core out, I hardly have to even pay anything for it. And I can pummel it super easy.
Seems like she's getting fun.
Oh, it was a blast. Most fun I've had playing a Blitz deck in a long time. And it's going to get better because I just changed, like I said, I changed some stuff and she'll be a little bit better.
There you go.
I mean, I think that's I don't know. I like the existence of Blitz just in what purpose it serves. I know there are a lot of people who are not super fond of Blitz, but I think Blitz serves a purpose that hopefully, and we kind of talked about this a few weeks ago, I hope that Blitz's purpose in the game is shifted away from what it originally was, because Blitz was always proposed as the entry point for players.
Let's leave
but
that.
I think
that's just all of us listening, everyone watching. I need like this isn't just a comment fish. I need everyone to acknowledge, sign your name down below in the comments that I will stop presenting Blitz as the intro format. It can be the introductory game, the
decks,
but it is not the game to hook people long term on Flesh and Blood, or the format to hook people long term on Flesh and Blood.
It's become too combo based.
Yes.
A lot of decks are very combo based, and that's
Kano, Benji.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like there's too many decks where it's just like, because I ran Benji when the set released just for fun, and I played a new guy, and I was like, fuck, like this is okay. Yeah. How many 2-block armor pieces do you have here? Just grab here. You can have a bunch of the iron
hide,
right, so that you don't fucking lose to my combo turn 0. Like, so it just it's too high rolly for someone. I guess know your audience too. Like, is this a guy that's played games before?
But it's super high. Even with Cheyenne, I could draw nut hands and just pile on so much damage. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, your nut hands are great. I love your nut hands.
Oh, God, I love them. Oh, yeah. But yeah, it's insane. And then all of a sudden you just throw, like, I got impatient because I couldn't find my Tome of Faendal, which I've now cut from the set. So I broke Mage Masters to throw out 2 Lesson in Lavas.
Because
so here's
why not? Yeah.
And so I ended up cutting down to 1 Lesson in Lava because 2 Lesson in Lava. The first Lesson in Lava is worthless, and it's actually a bad card because they can't block it, and that means they have their whole hand. And the fact that they can't block it sucks. So I went down to 1, and I'm just pitching it if I see it early and trying to get it back to it.
It's a closer. It's an additional closer when you're both at 1 life. Yeah.
Run Gary Grenloss, bring them in. Coffees for closers. That's Lessons in Lava.
Boom.
Right. I played, I don't know, a few weeks ago. I played a blitz game with Kano, and 100% Dane's point of Benji. I feel bad when somebody doesn't understand what my hero does, and I'm playing a format where they could swing for game on turn 2, and I could just instantly kill them from 20, and they just sit there and stare at me.
Isn't this game awesome? This game's super
excited?
fun. Yeah.
I hope you come back next week. Armory is fun, isn't it?
Yeah,
this is exciting.
This is great. As you're walking out, like holding your prizes, like see you next week. Like, yeah, it's interesting. I think that CC is just a better game.
Well,
So teach people
I
that game as
actually
soon as
think-
they're willing.
Yeah. I think that actually the introductory format to the game should 1000% be commoner. It has zero barrier to entry. Lots of stores have started to use it as a format randomly throughout the month to allow new players to come in. It's a way that stores can use their bulk. You can use your bulk to help new players and get people to play the game at a very fundamental level with no high rolls. You don't have to teach them about second cycles. You don't have to go, oh, you're going to want to pitch this blue card and then stack it above this one because you're going to see it first in your pitch cycle. Don't worry about that stuff. You're playing commoner. It's very fair. No one's going to get high rolled out when they're up by 15 or down by 15. The games stay pretty level in terms of life the whole way. And you get people the opportunity. Like the biggest barrier to entry in this game is 100% equipment. My only issue with that, and I don't think it's an issue for card game players in general. It does feel bad if you're a new player and you show up and someone goes, oh man, you're going to love this deck. You play it, you get the feel for it, and you think, yeah, I like this deck. I kind of enjoy it. You buy all the legendary equipment for it, and then you go, oh man, I really want to play that other hero. I wish I would have played them first. They seem more interesting. Well, now you have to trade it or sell it and rebuy other stuff because it is expensive to get your legendary loadout in a lot of those decks. Commoner allows people at a very low entry point to be able to play a lot of different styles of decks without investing any money, and they can actually get a feel for how the heroes function at a fundamental level, like at their base level, like what they're going to do. Just how does this hero play? You get to do that. At the core of the design of the game, you get to try a hero out and see what they do and really get a feel for them, which I think is the right way to teach someone a game. And I like it. I think it's a way that they should just approach the game and encourage people. And then you can transition someone from there into constructed versus into blitz. Let blitz be like the third format people try out, because I think that blitz is something you do for fun during skirmish season to go play for Prisinger with your buddies. I don't think blitz is what you do.
It's 100% made so you can play Cheyenne. Because I'm telling you, James White turns her into adult hero. I'm going all in. I love that deck. Just because of the whole copying the other hero's ability, it is what I would call interesting.
I was
because
just
you're always
you stole it. I was gonna be like, Jason finds that interesting. Oh
Very
my god,
interesting.
yeah.
Playing all the different heroes, which he may or may not be. I would find it
get out of my head.
Always the same hero.
Oh, it's so funny.
We like to bring it back. We like to bring it back.
Yep.
You know, bring it all the way
tie
back.
it in.
Callback. That's a callback.
That is a callback. So callbacks work better when you call them out as well.
Yep.
I love
just
it.
Like
so.
segues.
Anyways,
just like segues. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, we covered everything, right? We're good.
Yeah, I do want to say one thing because we're going to talk about other shit that we've been kind of doing and out and about. And so me and Blake, it's a card game, but we both have agreed it's a board game. It's a card game, board game. And what we mean by that is we will never do it competitively, but it's great kitchen table fun. And it's Soul Forge. I never thought I would enjoy this game, but it's been a blast to play. Super easy. And Blake's been playing with his son. I've been playing Chris online because my family's been in and out of town. So I'm going to teach my wife probably this weekend because it's just a blast. It's fun to have other card games that you enjoy that have zero competition with Fab. And I call it a board game because it's a kitchen. Yeah. It's a kitchen table, but it's been a blast to play.
I'll be honest. I am very pleasantly surprised, and I really appreciate the fact that. So I wanted to do like in another podcast. It's called a preamble ramble, but just like something at the beginning that's unrelated to Fab, where we just bullshit for like 5 minutes, and we decided like not to try it out this episode. But the fact that Jason, I really appreciate, because Jason also brought up that, you know, we need to be like a little more heated. So I feel like I gave a little more heated, and then Jason gave a little bit of like an unrelated Fab thing. And it's like neither of them was probably exactly what each of us were thinking, but it's the fact that we care, you know, it's the fact that we wanted to give the other person a little piece of like what they wanted. And it's because we love each other. And that's what it all comes back to.
Team won a championship today for lacrosse.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was going to be about. I thought that's what you're going to say.
Yeah,
it's fucking awesome.
I thought that's where you were going for sure.
No, yeah, I just thought it was really funny that SoulForge I backed on Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of forgot about it. Me and Chris got it, played it. I'm like, wait a second, this is actually kind of fun. And then Blake kind of asked questions, and next thing you know, Blake's got packs and he's doing it at home as well. And it's just fun. You just take 2 decks, you mash them together, and you can't win right away. You have to build up your wins, and your creatures go from really weak to these just disgustingly big 40 power things that crush faith. I don't know. It's fun. It's a fun kitchen table board game. I call it a board game. Yeah, because that's
it's a board game for us. Yeah, I'm excited to try Varia, whatever.
Varia. I think it's Varia. I don't know. It's funny because this conversation is proof of how degenerate our friend group can be in terms of our ability to spur one another into picking something up is unmatched.
Yeah,
it's unmatched.
Pretty dangerous, honestly. It's kind of dangerous.
I'm genuinely, it's super dangerous.
Ready? Okay. I've got some point after you're done.
I was just going to say, I'm actually curious. This is something I would love to hear in the comments. This is Blake requesting something. I want to know is everybody's group like this? Does everybody just have a group of friends that can go, hey, I tried this game. It's awesome. You should try it. And you don't give any thought to it like a sane person would, where you go, you know what? I'll check it out. You do a bunch of research. You maybe try a couple test games. You ask your friend to meet up with you and give it a try. Do you just do what we do, which is Jason said, hey, this is a lot of fun. I went, okay, cool. That does sound fun. I real quick did a little Google search on it. I read about 8 cards. I watched 15 minutes of Zach and Steven playing it on Team Covenant, and then I went to Tower Caves and I bought it. With not enough hesitation. There were no barriers to that entry.
So I was just going to ask, if you guys will hearken back 1 year to Jason saying, Blood Bowl, that seems interesting. Where does everyone currently stand with their Blood Bowl? Where's everyone at? So we've played one league. We've played one league, and it was a long league. We played for like 6-7 months. I have
5
3
Games
teams.
Workshop teams. I have 5 Game Workshop teams, and I have 2 printed teams. So I'm not degenerate at all.
I've got 3.
And the sick part is only 2 are unpainted. Only 2 are unpainted.
That's awesome.
Lizards are painted. The elves are painted. The Imperials are painted, and I'm working on the Norse and the humans.
So I think this should have been the first 5 minutes of the podcast, just bullshitting and like ranting, and then we go into like we've got our banner set up. But anyways,
do you want to hear us BS at the beginning, the end, the middle?
That's unfair. No one's listening right now. There are 6 people that are still listening to our.
There are lots of people who come. I think people will listen. I think. Okay, so Blake's got his request in, right?
Cut this out and put that right at the beginning with your magical editing skills.
I don't want to do all that work. I don't want to do all that work. And I think that.
Why are you waving a tripod at us? Is this a threatening gesture?
Yes. I don't want to do the extra work, and also I think it's better for because we're filming it like. I
stopped doing a normal opening because you said, don't do those openings more because I'm just going to put a clip in the front anyway.
Well, yeah, but our clip is going to be fabulated. Or do we not want the clip to be fabulated? I don't know what's happening anymore.
I don't know. It could be whatever
at the beginning or whatever you call it.
I think that'd be fun to do like a 5 that. So honestly, the 5 to 10 minute thing at the beginning is more for me to like warm up my banter because I'm alone in my car / dealing with my kids or talking to my wife. There's not like the witty banter happening. Huh?
Literally work on a computer for 8 hours a day with no human interaction.
So
my wife's
exactly
an overnight nurse.
I'm saying like 5 to 10 minutes of warming up unfabulated of just like talking about our lives and bullshit. I think would be fun to listen to and a thing. Comment down below if you think that would be interesting to hear about.
So on a slow news cycle. So Dane, how many bowel movements are you at for today?
Yeah, I'd be like, dude, I had the runniest shit and it's crazy. No, I've been eating less and I've been a lot healthier. And No.
Oh no, it turned.
no.
It turned. It
So-
turned.
I did not expect.
Unrelated to the run. This is not running. I just said that to be funny, but like, so genuine question, and this came up in the podcast I listened to too. Is I've been eating less and eating healthier, and I've been pooping way more. Like, how is that? What is happening in my body? How am I eating and taking less, and more is coming out? So
Simple,
comment
man.
down below if you
Things
have
with-
answers to
things with
that.
nutrients. It's called fiber. You know, it doesn't really have fiber. Cheetos.
I just can see it now.
I don't
Monster
eat
Energy.
tons of. I don't eat tons of
See the
Cheetos and shit.
Facebook post. What podcast you guys recommend? Well, if you're looking to hear about bowel movements, I would recommend CL Cass Haven because they'll talk
Entertainment.
about it with you.
Entertainment. See, I think people would enjoy my bowel talk early on. That's all I'm saying.
Or you're gonna lose them. They'll just be like, "I'm out."
Fuck this ripcord, dude.
I mean, it really
All
just
right.
depends, right? Like James White's probably not going to listen through a bowel movement discussion with his wife because he clearly
Doesn't have
listens
to
the
be about
podcast at
that.
least a little
Like,
bit.
I think that my analogy of like Blake telling us about going to his neighborhood barbecue and getting hammered on Mountain Dew Hearts, like that. I think that is like an entertaining story that would be great at the opening of the podcast to like get people invested. We're getting warmed up with banner, and then we go into talking fab. I think that is like a beneficial.
When nothing is going on in Minnesota, we're gonna have no openings. So what's going on over there? Well, there's snow blowing across my window right now. I see some frost accumulating on the upper and lower right corners of the
See,
window.
I have faith that you could make that interesting. If that is what you wanted to bring to the podcast, one, shame on you because that's bullshit. But two, I bet you could still make it interesting. You've got more happening in your life.
Some
Anyways,
days.
all right, we've
you know,
gone way
Minnesota
off.
winter.
We've gone way off. I'm good to wrap up. You guys good? Any final thoughts?
I have nothing. My ball moving discussion is all shitty. It's out.
Good one. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we will talk to y'all next week. Peace.
Yeah.